Well, hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you here tonight for our 7th annual All Things Wellington. 7 years ago, we had a dream that we could share our exciting curriculum with a community that cared as much as some schools care about football. And in that first All Things Wellington, we had 60 people join us for that evening. Here we are 7 years later with 387 people. Wow. And it's cold out. Thank you for coming, and now it's our job to make sure that this evening is worthwhile. Every year I get 7 minutes to talk about things that I think are really important that deal with the direction of the school, and I want to talk about 2 issues tonight. First, I want to talk to you about the important place that Wellington holds in primary and secondary education in the state of Ohio. Education is at a crossroads. Schools, especially in Ohio, are being driven by 2 distinct, powerful, and opposing forces. On the one hand, the future calls on schools to abandon a reliance on rote memorization and on the overwhelming dependence on standardizing tests, curricula, and human beings. You heard here at Wellington 2 years ago Sir Ken Robinson and Dr. Young Zhao, who represent a much larger group of thinkers about educational issues, who told us that we have to help our students to create, build, and design because the routinized doing one thing over and over again kind of jobs are gone, and that we have to prepare our children for an unpredictable future. So we have Young Zhao and Ken Robinson on the one hand. On the other hand, national and state educational policy leans heavily, almost entirely, on the same kind of education and testing that made perfect sense for when schools prepared students to work and manage factories, but make no sense in today's world. The state of Ohio is perhaps the worst state in this way, wonderful in so many other ways. In 49 other states, independent schools are left free by the state to determine their own curriculum, their own testing, and to whom they give their diplomas. Why do 49 other states give their independent schools this freedom? Well, it's pretty simple. Independent schools regularly have 0% dropout rates, 100% college admissions. They're the center of educational innovation, and they have higher standards than any schools in any other sector. The state of Ohio is an exception, and it is a dangerous one, and they want to become more intrusive as they try through legislation to direct our curriculum, content, and testing. I paraphrase a former state superintendent who said, "There's nothing worth learning that can't be measured by a standardized test." Really? The next time you learn an important lesson from your partner or child, ask yourself whether standardized testing is the best way to assess your learning. Monica, I think maybe we should include that in our marriage from here on out. They say their legislation, why does Ohio intrude on independent schools? They say that their legislation seeks to improve college attendance and college readiness. How do you improve college attendance that's already at 100%? Think about that one for a second. I think Ohio's rationale runs deeper, and I think it's a lack of imagination. I think there are some who are responsible who simply cannot conceive of the possibility that it can be done a different way. And that is why Wellington is so important. Our work supplies a blueprint, a working model of what it can be. And that is why we have to redouble our efforts to continuing the kind of exciting education you're going to hear about tonight. And that is why, as your head of school, I will continue to be committed to this path. Our children need it, the state needs it, and the country needs it. Which moves me to my second item. While the state wants to measure how many 10th graders know who the 13th President of the United States was. Okay, how many of you know? Raise your hand if you know the 13th President. Come on. 13th President of the United States?
I read it on the street.
It is indeed Millard Fillmore. And thank you for your honesty, John. While the state wants to measure how many 10th graders know Millard Fillmore, what is it that we want to measure? We want to measure student engagement. It is our belief that beyond teaching basic skills that we must do, everyone must do that, that we want every student to be deeply engaged in his or her work and be hungry for more. To that end, I want to tell you briefly about a concept we're developing here at Wellington. And as I work through it, as you work through this, I want you to think right now, I want you to think about an educational experience that you'd had somewhere in your past, maybe your favorite class of all time, maybe your least favorite, any class. Just I want you to think, get one in your mind. I, for my purposes, will be thinking about my 12th grade Latin class with Miss Blackwell, and I think that should make her very happy, don't you think? Okay, now, do you all have a place? Raise your hands if you've got a class you're thinking of. And if you're not raising your hand, come on, let's go, quickly. Okay. First, I ask you, was that experience challenging or unchallenging? Okay. Now, then I want you to think about where it fits on a scale from love it to hate it. Okay. Thinking about those two dimensions forms 4 quadrants. Can you place the course or class or experience that you were thinking of in one of those quadrants? This would be a good time to nod or shake your head. Thank you. Okay. If you found the class unchallenging, but you loved it, I call that the entertained quadrant. Right? You're not asked to do very much, but it's certainly a pleasant and fun place to be. If it's unchallenging and you hate it, what would you call that? Wasted time. I call it the bored quadrant. Okay. If you find it, the word I'm using for if you find it challenging and don't like it, I'm calling that the grind quadrant. And then if you love it and it's challenging, I call that the engaged quadrant. We have set an institutional goal here at Wellington School to measure how often students fall into that quadrant. And then to drive more and more students into that engaged quadrant. And we're doing this, we're figuring out how to measure it by analyzing the factors that put a student in one quadrant or another. And we're also investing in our faculty. You're going to hear tonight from several teachers. They're going to mention student engagement grants. We are actually funding teachers to create programs specifically designed to drive students into the engaged quadrant. I think right now you should be seeing a list of projects that we're funding this year. Is that in fact there? Thank you, Jonathan. You're fabulous. Now, if we're successful in this mission, we will have brought the kind of education we seek to provide here at Wellington to an even higher level. And you're going to be hearing us talk more about this as we move on. And it will be marked by children who increasingly drive their own learning and then are hungry for more. And the world needs more people who are hungry for more. So, for tonight, hear how the students and teachers work at greater engagement. Listen to how the beginning school teachers aim to raise engagement by utilizing resources outside the classroom. Listen to how 4th graders raise their engagement by connecting to students across the country and across the world. Think carefully about how the 8th graders in a design curriculum become more engaged by looking at the world with a radically different perspective. And consider how the 12th graders responsible for driving their own sophisticated science research find themselves in the realm of the engaged quadrant. These are but a few examples that we're working on, and you're going to hear about many more of those things. But as we get ready for this program, I look forward to your being deeply engaged. So it is my hope that tonight what you hear will challenge you and that you'll love it.